Good afternoon, race fans, and welcome back to Season 2 of the Ottercar AI Racing Series. Today here for round number 7 for the Why is the Canadian Anthem playing 65. Of course, that seems to be the big question on everyone's mind whenever we head to one of these gosh darn NASCAR ovals up in the north. Why do they play the Canadian Anthem at my God-loving, red-blooded gosh darn American circle tracks? It's almost like they have respect for the fans that come across the border to watch the race or something. Regardless, we're here at New Hampshire's second of 3 ovals on the schedule here this season. And tonight is going to be a very big deal for these Ottercar drivers because tonight is where we end the regular season and begin the playoffs. As it stands right now, thirds Ash, Ash with an E, Rally, and Zoe are all locked into the playoffs right now. So that leaves 7 more positions for drivers to point their way in here at New Hampshire. And then if they don't do it here today, then that's it. They're just completely out of luck. This is the final opportunity to get into the playoffs. Otherwise, that's your championship attempts, at least for season number 2, over if you don't make it in here in this race. Open up back in 1990. It's hard to tell here from the camera angles. It looks like this track is pretty much perfectly flat, but honestly, it is not quite. It has variable banking, so it's 2 degrees up to 7 degrees through the corners. And I mean, when you're driving it, it might as well be flat. It feels like it is a flat surface when you are driving it, and that means you're going to have to use a lot more brakes than normal, and you're going to have to be putting a lot more force behind the steering than normal. So tire wear going to be a major deal here, and of course drivers do not have the fuel to make it to the end. So I would imagine tires is going to be the call for most of these drivers when they do come down to make their pit stops. First time Ottercar has ever visited this track, despite being an oval, it did not make its way onto the calendar for Ottercar Season 1. And of course, this track hosts all US-based NASCAR series, including the Well and Modified Tour. This is basically the super speedway of the Well and Modified Tour. But they also have a road course here that hosts the Sports Car Club of America and a couple of different vintage sports car series. And they also do motorbike racing here at New Hampshire on that road course. It's one of the weirder road courses that are built into an oval, because this one actually partially goes through the infield and then goes outside of the oval out into the woods and then comes back into the oval. It's a whole thing. It's really weird. But today we are here at the oval. Now let's take a look down at our starting lineup and see how things are going to be shaken off here today for our final round of the regular season. Starting out on the pole for the Blazing Drunk Drivers Racing Team with a 27.77 to his name. That's going to be the 38 of Madcap, getting his first ever front row start here today. Starting back in position number 2, that's going to be the 7 machine of Kevin 11, followed along by Queen Amatrine, sponsored by Riot Games in the 37, also for the Blazing Drunk Drivers Racing Team. Back in position number 4, that's going to be the 1 machine of Med. Then back in 5th, that is the 3 machine of Thirds. The first driver so far here in this list that is locked into the playoffs. It does not matter where Thirds finishes here tonight. She will be good to go for next week in the playoffs. The same can be said for that 6 of Ash in the 030 and the 26 of Rally. Both of those drivers also already locked into the playoffs, so even if they wreck out of today's race, they are still good to go, at least for the first round of the playoffs starting next week. Back in position number 8 is going to be the 44 of Limited Time, followed by Zoe in the 666 entry with Chris Cox in the 69, rounding out the top 10 here. Back in 11 is going to be the 4 machine of Dwayne Day, followed by the 21 of August back here in 12th. Then it's going to be Ame Sakaramori for the Hybrid Development Team in the 2 car back in 13th, followed by the last of the Blazing Drunk drivers. That's the 776 of Valnar, starting back in position number 14. 15 going to go back to that 12 machine of Pav for the Shorter for Strays Racing Team back in 15th, followed by the 818 of MF Beatus in 16th. 17th going to go back to the 800 of Deeg, followed by the 88 of Ashley back in 18th. And then we're going to see the 11 of Ash back in 19th. It looks like Ash is going to be the worst starting of the playoff lock-in so far here tonight, starting all the way back in 19th in that 11 machine, but he is locked in, so not a great start, but it's still something he'll be able to work with heading into next week. Back in 20th, it's going to be the 330 machine of Lake, followed by the 93 of Bloody Wolf back in position number 21. Oh, you know, in the 420 back in 22nd, followed by the 369 of Drop Table Roster. Jeremy Albertson in the 985 machine back in 24th. Then rounding out the tail end of the field, it's going to be the 901 of Sarkin and the 777 entry of Sarah Something. That's how the field's going to be shaken up here for our final round of the regular season. It all comes down to this for all these drivers' playoff hopes. It's just a question of who the lucky 7 are going to be that managed to follow in the footsteps of our drivers that have taken home wins already here in this season. iRacing.com pace cars off. We're going to be getting ready to go green flag racing here in New Hampshire, and the green flag is up in the air for the Why is the Canadian Anthem playing 65. Madcap off to an early lead in that number 38 machine. It looks like the inside line is the place to be here on this initial restart. That outside line kind of got caught with their pants down a little bit. So far, so good. Down through turns 1 and 2. Hopefully 3 and 4 will be just as clean. We got a little bit of wibble wobbling going on throughout the field here. Seems everyone's a little bit twitchy, a little bit uncertain. The caution flag is out on the speedway. Oh, you know, is upside down. That's a problem. Well, looks like maybe some drivers are trying to take those shortcuts they found at Alton Park last week here on the oval. Unfortunately, that's not quite how it works here. And I have a terrible feeling in my stomach right now that I believe that we might see the 901 of Sarkin commit murder here. No, not quite. It's actually going to be the 985 of Jeremy Albertson and Ashley in the 88. Ashley kind of an innocent bystander there. It looks like everyone kind of checked up trying to avoid her. And then that's when Oh You Know came barreling in. So let's take a look over at Ashley. She's going to get a little tap from the 369 of drop table roster. Keeps it in the wall, and then that 420 machine just comes sailing into her. There's not a whole lot Ashley could have done there. Let's take another look back at this right quick. Take a look down from the back of Ashley's car. Just a little bit of a tap into the outside wall, no big deal, and then surprise, there's Oh You Know. And if nothing else, it seems like Oh You Know got the short end of the stick here. So let's ride on board with him here. Tries to avoid her, and then just gets shunted right back up into the incident. So that's going to be what brings out caution flag number 1 here at New Hampshire. Got a grand total of one lap in the book clean. There was effort. I don't think it was a very good effort, but there was effort to have a race here at New Hampshire. But caution flag out on the speedway here. And I guess just to reiterate here while we're under caution, right now, thirds Ash, Rally, and Zoe are the drivers that are 100% locked into the playoffs. So they don't have to worry about anything here tonight. Following behind them, as it stands on the points right now, of course, this is coming into today's event. These are not live updated, so I don't know how they're shaken out with how the field is currently running. But right now, the remaining spots are filled by Dwayne Day, Madcap, August, Ashley, Chris Cox, Limited Time, and Bloody Wolf. Of course, we saw that incident with Ashley, and Oh You Know just a minute ago. Ashley is down on pit lane, so she is getting some... Doesn't look all that terrible, but she is getting damage repaired here in that 88. And that could potentially be the 88 machine's playoff run over right before it even began. Oh You Know, all the way back, I believe, in like 23rd or 24th in the point standing. So Oh You Know didn't really have a chance to get into the playoffs unless he won this race. He was in a must-win situation, and obviously that's not happening. So there's 2 drivers already axed from the playoffs, pretty much guaranteed, unless something absolutely catastrophic happens to the rest of the field. And we're only 5 laps into tonight's event, so who knows what sorts of drama we're going to have unfold here in these remaining 60, as everyone tries to muscle their way into those final couple of playoff spots so that they can compete for the championship here in the final 5 races of the Ottercar Racing Series once the playoffs actually begin. That said, you can hear everyone starting to get revved up down there. We are getting ready to go green flag racing once again. And maybe, possibly, we'll see things go a little bit cleaner this time. Green flag up in the air, and again, we see the inside line getting a little bit of a better jump than the outside does. Madcap leading the way down into turns 1 and 2. Kevin 11 just behind in that 7 machine tried to bring it down to the low line. Wasn't quite able to, as Queen M machine, sponsored by Riot Games, filters down to the bottom and blocks that move. Now heading down once again into 3 and 4, and already we see contact being made around the field. I don't have very good hopes that this is going to stay green another lap, but it will, despite all of the beating and banging back there. We have one driver up in the wall. That is the 93 of Bloody Wolf, getting some damage to the right front, but he keeps it pointed in the right. Oh, well, no, he does not. That's a broken right front suspension. Will he be able to get off the track before the caution flag flies? Looks like he will. I mean, this should, for all intents and purposes, be a caution. And now he is going to get the tow down to pit lane, so looks like that's going to be Bloody Wolf's playoff hopes dashed, as that right front looks like it was completely destroyed. Caution flag did not fly, of course. On the ovals, we let iRacing's automated cautions handle everything. On the road course, of course, we throw the cautions manually, but here on the ovals, it's iRacing's automated systems that do it. That is their problem. And again, more beating and banging as August absolutely shunts that one of Med, and we have more drivers into the outside wall here. Big checkup on the inside line as someone up here has damage, and it looks like it's Kevin 11. Kevin 11 is going to come to a stop in the middle of the track, and if the blocker cars catch up to him, oh, well, that right front is completely destroyed. Again, we're leaving it just entirely up to iRacing's automated cautions here. I don't know how that wasn't a caution, but apparently it's not. That's going to be Kevin 11's playoff hopes potentially dashed here. Looking further up in the field, has run into the blocker cars. This is the biggest influence we've seen the blocker cars have here pretty much all season. But everyone's having to check up big time. For whatever reason, these drivers aren't willing to just straight up drive through them. As we've established, the blocker cars do not have rights. So it's a little bit strange to see these drivers actually showing them respect and patience. And we have a car hard into the upside wall. That's going to be Sarkin bringing out the caution flag. That is an absolutely trashed 901 machine. Rumor has it Med might have been involved in an incident as well, so I'll have to take a look back down here in a second. Let's take a look back here at the 901 of Sarkin side by side with the 985 of Jeremy Albertson. And just a little bit of a tap was all it took to send that 901 hard into the outside wall, harder than most of the impacts we've seen here so far here in Ottercar. That was pretty drastic. Let's take another look back. Let's see what the deal is with Med, because we're getting word that Med might have also been involved in an incident as well. Well, it looks like maybe that's just the blocker car. No. Med getting sent into the outside wall as well. We didn't even notice that. That was an entirely different part of the track from where Sarkin had his incident. What a bizarre thing to see. Looking back here at the 901 machine of Sarkin. What an awful impact for that 901 machine. I would not want to be in that car in the real world. That said, while we're still here under yellow, let's also try and see if we can't figure out what happened to Kevin 11 here. We're going to scroll a little bit further back in time here. I had to try and figure out where that damage came from. No, still has that damage on the car, so let's go a little bit further back here. Try and figure out what the deal is for Kevin 11. Nope. So we need to go a little bit further back, and we might, whatever happened to Kevin 11 here is not being registered as an incident, so that's part of the issue. And oh, well, looks like an identical incident to what Sarkin had pretty much, but for whatever reason, this one didn't throw the caution and Sarkin's did. So just like that, a couple of more drivers' playoff hopes pretty much completely dashed here, because a lot of these drivers are coming into tonight's event in a must-win situation. Still under caution here at New Hampshire, the front row looking like it's going to be Madcap, that's going to be Ash, thirds, Dwayne Day, August, Queen, Amatrine. Your top three rows is going to be MF Beatus and Rally, Limited Time, and Chris Cox. Your top 10 coming to this restart. We should, I believe, be getting the one to go this time by. And what drama we have seen. Med, Kevin 11, Sarkin, Ashley, Bloody Wolf, and Oh You Know already eliminated from this race. And pretty much all these drivers except maybe Ashley are in a must-win situation for the playoffs. So if incidents like that, they're pretty much completely out of the game. There's nothing left that they can do. They're definitely unfortunate to see, but it just goes to show how much effort these drivers are putting in to try and make sure that they get into playoffs, even if that requires eliminating the competition a little bit. Sure enough, we get the one to go to race control, so we're going to be stacking them back up 2 by 2. Madcap Ash, thirds, and Dwayne Day. Your 2 front rows here. Ash and thirds both already locked into playoffs, but I'll tell you what, Madcap, Dwayne Day, August, all would really love a win here just to be safe to lock themselves in. Madcap is not in the playoff. No, Madcap is in the playoff battle. It's a little bit close, but it's Dwayne Day and Madcap and August. So actually, all 3 of your top 5 drivers that aren't locked in right now are currently in the points bubble for the playoffs. So they might be okay here one way or another, even if they don't take home the win. But like MF Beatus is a driver to keep an eye on. MF Beatus is in last place in the point standings right now. He's up +9, running in 7th. If MF Beatus gets the win here, he will be locked into the playoffs despite being last place in points. But green flag is back in the air. We're going to be trying this thing again here in New Hampshire. Once again, the story seems to repeat itself. The inside line just getting a much better launch than the outside line does. And already we are beating and banging back in the middle of the pack here. Drivers fanning out all across the speedway, trying to make every which line work here. And I'll tell you what, I'm a little bit scared of what we might see going down here into turn number 3. We have a driver hard into the outside wall again. Caution flag is out as Zoe finds herself upside down on her lid. And on the plus side, Zoe won last week's race back at the Olden Park Circuit, so Zoe is locked into the playoffs. This wreck does not matter for the driver of that 666 car. And it honestly looks like the incident is entirely her own fault. She drove into someone and lost control of the car. That is entirely on Zoe. Octave, no, maybe not. Octave did drift up a tiny little bit. Zoe came down. It was kind of a bit of a racing deal there. Take a moment. Let's ride on board here with Zoe in that 666 entry. Okay, maybe it was a little bit more on Ash on that one. But regardless, again, Zoe is locked into the playoffs, so she's good to go. It does not matter for her. That said, most of the field's making their way on down to pit lane. The only drivers electing to stay out are Sarah Something, Jeremy Albertson, Lake, and Valnar. Every single other driver has come down pit lane here. And it's looking like Pav is going to win the battle off of pit road. An 11-second stop for that 12 machine, so it looks like everyone except Pav decided to put on new tires, and Pav looks like he just got fuel. So the plot thickens. There is strategy going on here. We're just going to have to see how this works out on this restart for that number 12 machine. Having to take the green on old tires when every single car behind you has brand new ones could potentially be catastrophic. But who knows? It might work out for that 12 machine. This gamble could potentially work in his favor, particularly if we keep having these repeat cautions. And Pav's going to be finding himself in a very good spot right now. here in that 12 machine. Of course, everyone in front of him, Valnar Lake, Jeremy Albertson, and Sarah Something, all of them have not yet pit. So they're still going to have to come down here in the next couple of laps, presumably. But that's the joy of Ottercar. We're just going to have to see what happens. Probably a whole lot more death, if I had to guess. Should hopefully be getting the one to go here from race control. Take a look up here. Lights are still on for the time being. They should go off this time by, though. There we go. Gonna be stacking back up 2 by 2. We will be taking the green flag again next time around. And then, you know, I'm sure we'll make it approximately a lap and a half before someone violently explodes in a wreck that would probably be lethal in the real world. But you know what? If these drivers want to commit murder, I am not going to stop them. This is a very hands-off racing league, just like how if these drivers decide they want to cut most of the racing circuit, I won't stop them there either. If they can figure out how to do it, more power to them. That said, getting ready to go green flag once again here for restart number 3. It's going to be Sarah Something, Jeremy Albertson, Lake Valnar taking the field to green. All 4 of these drivers on old tires, and so is that 12 of Pav. We're just going to have to see how much of a difference the tire strategy makes as the green flag flies once again here at New Hampshire. There's something drifting up the trap, and it looks like Jeremy Albertson's going to try and make the move down to the inside. Not quite able to get the run off turn 2. Will he go for it again? Down in 3 and 4. Not quite close enough to make it happen. Contact between Lake and Valnar, though. A little bit scary to see there as they're bumping against each other, but everyone keeps it pointed in the right direction. Now everyone else further back in the field pretty much having to get around the blocker cars, and it looks like for the most part everyone's able to clear them down the back straightaway. Be careful there, limited time. Almost making contact there with Ame Sacramore. That could have been a little bit sketchy there, but it looks like everyone's keeping it mostly clean as suddenly there's a bit of a stack up going on here. I'm not quite sure what the deal is. It looks like Sarah Something has trouble and the caution flag is out on the speedway. Or it is not. There we go. Now the caution flag is flying. Not sure what quite went on there. That was a bit of a train wreck in slow motion. I think that's the only suitable way to describe whatever we just saw happen going on there. I think it started with Sarah Something having something happen to her. Fitting as the name is, but then everyone else just comes piling in. So let's drop a little bit further back, see if we can't figure out what the deal is with Sarah Something in that 777 entry and trying to figure out why she's off the pace. She's got a little bit of damage to the right front, but then everyone else just kind of came piling in. Let's jump a little bit further back here and maybe see if we can't get to the bottom thing. Oh, well, that looks like that's where our issue originated from. So let's go back a little bit further. Time to do some detective work here to figure out what all is going on to that 777 entry. And we're not quite far enough back yet. What is going on here? I'm determined to get to the bottom of this race, fans. We're going to figure out what the deal is. Alright, let's try to go even further back. And now we have a clean 777 entry for Sarah Something. This, I believe, is when we initially took the green here is what we're looking back at. Did she get contact from the 985 of Jeremy Albertson? I wouldn't be surprised if she did at this rate. Things are looking good so far, going down into 3 and 4. And they complete that lap without issue, so whatever happens should be coming up now. Figure out why that 777 machine was so far off the pace. There was obvious right front damage to her. Oh, and there's contact with the Jeremy Albertson. That's going to mess up the right front. Valnar gets into the back of her. And then that's when we see everyone else start to check up and just pile on into the back. So now that we finally got that internet sleuthing out of the way, we can take a look back here and see what went down for the rest of the field. Currently looking down at drop table roster, and basically nobody wanted to use the brakes is the main issue that we're getting to here. No one decided they wanted to actually slow down for the incident. Big shocker. Now I find a whole sleuth of drivers down onto pit lane, though. Valnar, Queen, Amatrine, Chris Cox, Sarah Something, Zoe Ashry, Oh You Know, Bloody Wolf, Mad Kevin 11, and Sarkin are all down on pit lane. And that leaves us with just 15 cars still on the racing surface. Some of them locked in, some of them not. So we're going to be going green flag racing this time by. It looks like Zoe is the only driver locked into the playoffs that has been taken out of the race. So everyone else that's wrecked out, effectively that is their playoff dreams over with. So now I find the front row as we come to this restart being Lake, Pav, Rally, Dwayne Day, Limited Time, and Madcap. Lake is up plus 19 right now in that 330 machine. She was a two-time winner back in Ottercar season number 1. Looking to potentially carve her name in the record book, even though she did describe her racing line as being mid. She is currently our most improved driver on the speedway right now. Pace cars off, green flag back up in the air here at New Hampshire. 27 laps in the books, just a little bit under halfway here. And immediately Pav sends a deep dive, and he's going to wreck Lake for the lead. Caution, immediately back out on the speedway. Pav knows he's in a must-win situation to get into the playoffs coming into tonight's event, I believe, back in maybe 18th in the point standings. And he's just going to commit murder for the race lead. You know what? I'm not going to do anything about it. I respect the grind. The 12 machine of Pav has officially resorted to murder to take the race lead. Taking another look down at that. Tries to send it low down to the inside. It does not stick, and that is a broken right front suspension for Lake. So that's Alrighty, there we go. Looks like we have audio restored. Nothing like a little bit of technical difficulties up in the broadcast booth. We've established what happened though. Have our race leader in that number 12 machine killed someone to take the race lead. And now the question is, can he hang on to it with the guilt of his sins rolling on his back? Gonna be Rally starting to the outside here this time around. The 26 machine Rally is locked into the playoffs. So Rally, this win for that 26, all that matters for is for a couple of extra playoff points to snag and carry into the first round. But let's see, will Pav continue his path of tyranny as we get ready to take the green flag once again here in New Hampshire? I'm a little bit scared to see what that 12 machine tries to do. iRacing.com, these cars off, and back up in the air here. Hopefully the news should be a little bit less brutal now. Apparently the audio driver is crashing. Reset all of our audio settings. But the caution flag is back out on the speedway, and it looks like the trouble is for Kevin 11, who is a lapped car, finding himself upside down on his roof. He managed to get that broken right front suspension repaired, and it didn't do anything to help him because he's just dead again. This time courtesy of the 666 of Zoe, giving him a bit of a tap to the rear, loses control of the car, tries to keep it pointed in the right direction, and then it just snaps on him. Unfortunately, despite his best attempts to keep it clean and minty, this has been anything but a clean race here today. You see him tries to hang on to it, just not quite able to. Trying to take a look back here, ride down with Zoe. See what she saw going into this instant. So mind you, this is two different lapped cars bringing out this caution. So thank you, Zoe and Kevin 11, for bringing out the caution when you're not even really a factor in this race anymore. Pav is still being scored as our race leader here under this yellow. I'll tell you what, I'm going to be kind of astounded if his attempts at murder actually take him and bring him the race lead. Or excuse me, bring him the race win. Valnar in that 776 entry is going to be the lucky dog here. Unfortunately, Val is already 6 laps down, so this lucky dog will not put him back on the lead lap. But it's one step closer to getting there. It gives him another lap of wiggle room. Mind you, every car that's behind him in the standings right now is wrecked out, so it is not possible for Valnar to lose any more positions than he has right now unless some of these damaged cars manage to come back out on the speedway. But as the death continues, we now are down to 14 drivers still on the lead lap. Pav, Dwayne Day, Rally, Limited Time, Thirds, Madcap, August, Ash, Ame Sakaramori, Ash with an E, Drop Table Roster, Jeremy Albertson, Deeg, and MF Beatus. And it looks like Val is actually going to make the call to come down pit lane despite getting the lucky dog. So congratulations on defeating the purpose of the lucky dog you just got. Wonderful strategies there out of the 776 machine. What an event it has been here at New Hampshire, though. These drivers know that it's going to be a death match to get into the playoffs. And Pav, more than anyone else in that number 12 machine, been having a pretty quiet race here throughout season number 2. Is now ready to put all the cards on the table, commit as much murder and violence as necessary to lock himself in. Because again, Pav is in a must-win situation right now. He has to win this race if he wants to make it into the playoffs. Starting his outside, Dwayne Day. Dwayne Day does not necessarily need a win. Dwayne Day has the highest points right now of any driver not locked into the playoffs. So even if he only gets maybe a top 5, maybe even a top 10, I think Dwayne Day should be good on points to get in. So he doesn't necessarily have to win. And of course, Rally back there in third is locked in. Limited time 44 in a must-win situation. That's going to be thirds back in fifth. She is locked in. And then Madcap was the initial race leader. I believe that he is relatively okay on points, but he definitely needs to stay here in the top 5 just to be safe. We're going to try it again, though. Green flag up in the air for the 6th time here. And again, Pav, a really solid run down into turn 1. Just has to make sure that nobody gets close enough to pull the move that he did to Lake on him. And side by side down the backstretch, Dwayne Day is going to take the race lead. Going down the backstretch, a very solid run out of that 4 machine. Pav probably not going to be happy about that because again, he is in a must-win situation. So to lose that position is not great. Madcap just behind, also sailing up the field here a bit, passing around that 12 machine. It looks like Pav is starting to lose a bit of ground here. We might see the differing tire strategies that these drivers are doing start to play a little bit of a more pronounced effect. As Pav really is sinking through the field, and you gotta remember Pav was on that alternate tire strategy. He did not take tires when he pitted, just fuel. Everyone else in the field took fuel and tires. More beating and banging just behind him. Rally August, Ame Sakaramori. Everyone is vying for every little inch of territory they can grab here. And it's very elbows out here today in New Hampshire, as thirds very nearly left hooks the 2 of Ame Sakaramori. Things are getting spicy here up in the northern state. 23 laps to go here in the Ottercar AI Racing Series. Everyone is beating and banging through the corners. Our race leaders are getting ready to catch up to the blocker cars, and that might throw a massive wrench into this situation. Madcap's going to send it way down low. Dwayne Day is going to try and make the pass up high. Both of them manage to get around the blocker car without incident. It's going to be the drivers just behind that are going to have a whole lot of trouble here, as we see limited time Rally, Ame Sakaramori both checking up. Everyone else coming piling on in. They're all able to get on the brakes fast enough to keep from causing too much catastrophic damage at the very least. Now it's side by side for the race lead. It's a drag race down the backstretch between Dwayne Day and Madcap. It's going to be Madcap having the advantage coming out of 3 and 4. He's not quite enough to clear that 4 machine, and Dwayne Day's still going to stay in this battle. 21 laps to go here at New Hampshire. Madcap sends it down deep into turn number 1, drifts up just a little bit, has to get on the brakes just to keep from making contact with that 4 machine. Now Dwayne Day going to have the advantage here heading down into 3 and 4. Madcap starting to fall back just a little bit as he continues to try and make that low line work. Just behind Rally in limited time, battling it out for the final podium position here. So 20 laps to go. Caution flag out on the speedway. And it looks like it's going to be for Oh You Know. Oh, well. For the second time here tonight, Oh You Know is missing most of the front half of his car. take a look back here. See what happened to this car that is currently being scored 20 laps down in the 420 machine. And it looks like there's another lap car involved as well. That's the 985 of Jeremy Albertson. Jeremy Albertson has also killed someone here tonight. I gotta say though, it sure is convenient that that catch fence is apparently made out of titanium for the sake of our fans out in the crowd getting a little bit of a front row seat to the undercarriage of the Pop-Tarts Wild Berry 420 machine. Slide on board with Mr. Oh You Know, see what he saw going into this incident as he got taken on a bit of a wild ride through the catch fence. I'll tell you what, I'm sure that driver is glad he is not in VR right now. Looking down at pit lane, it looks like a decent chunk of the field is going to make the call to come down here. Most of the field that all of the field that is on the lead lap, I should better say, has made the call to come down pit lane. Madcap, third, Ash Rally, limited time, Dwayne Day, August, Alme, Sacramore, Pav, MFB, Dis, Deeg, Ash, drop table roster, Jeremy Albertson. Your 14 drivers still on the lead lap, and they are all going to come down pit lane. It's going to be limited time in the 44 that wins the battle off. Limited time, only an 11-second stop. Dwayne Day had a 14.18 second stop. Pav a 12.7 second stop. Madcap a 13.8. With only 18 laps to go, that battle off of pit lane, that we could see limited time win the race here. Just off of nailing that pit stop. His crew was on point here today. Limited time in the 44, also in a must-win situation here by virtue of the fact that he is like 20th or something in the point standings right now. And of course, with playoffs, if you win, you're locked in. Then it goes by highest points for the remaining spots, not filled by locked-in drivers. So it's going to be limited time. Dwayne Day, your front row coming to this green. That's going to be Madcap and Pav for row 2. And it looks like under that caution, Pav did actually bother putting on new tires in that 12 machine. So being inside the top 5 with new tires could be putting that 12 machine in a very advantageous situation. It could go any way here. Like, that's what's scary. Anyone in these top 5 spots right now have set themselves to potentially take home the race win here. I'm a little bit concerned that I think these blocker cars are actually going to be restarting at the front of the field, and that is going to make things very complicated. We are lining up 2 by 2. I think. Maybe? What are we doing here? Okay, now we're just only now letting the blocker cars go around the pace car. So we are going to be starting with a somewhat normal looking front row. Limited time 44, Dwayne Day in the 4, Madcap and Pav third and fourth. That's going to be Rally and Drop Table roster. MF Beatus thirds, Jeremy Albertson and Deeg, your top 10 on this restart. Going to be 15 to go when we take the green flag. And it's anyone's game here. Only thing we can do is sit back, relax, and watch the fireworks that are about to unfold here. Green flag up the air once again here at New Hampshire. A little bit of an early green flag from the flagman here today, but it's going to be the 44 of limited time having the advantage going down into turn number 1. Dwayne Day and Madcap still hanging on to the trail, though. Not going to be letting that 44 get away without a fight. Madcap pulling down to the low line, trying to get around that 12 of Pav. They're going to make contact. Pav fortunately keeping it pointed in the right direction, but he is going to lose a little bit of ground here. And there's the 369 of Drop Table roster. That's a driver we've not really talked about. There's a driver off the track. That is a 901 of Sark, and that might be a caution flag, might not. Depends on what iRacing's automated race control decides to do about that. Because again, that is an issue for iRacing's automated race control, and not me. We also have trouble for Deeg potentially, and caution flag is out. It looks like Deeg is missing a front. Yep, Deeg's front of the car is missing. Okay, well, caution flag number 8 out on the speedway. Why not? So let's take a look back. Let's see what happened to Sarkin first here. And then we'll take a look and see what happened to Deeg, because it's looking like there was an incident down the back straight, maybe? I'm not quite sure what Sarkin's strategy here is. Let's take a zoom out here, see if we can't better figure out what happened to him. It doesn't look like he has any damage. It almost looks like he was trying to go down pit lane and then just didn't. He just decided to bring it to a stop in the grass. I don't know what the deal is with that 901 machine, but then we take a look back here at Deeg. He's already missing his front bumper, so we're going to have to go back a little bit further to do some investigative journalism here. Figure out what the deal is with that 800. Side by side with the 985 of Jeremy Albertson. That does not surprise me. Jeremy Albertson has killed, I think, 4 or 5 people at this rate, and it's going to be no different for the 800 of Deeg. Rips the front bumper off, and potentially suspension damage to the right front as well. So just like that, caution flag number 8 on the speedway. It's no big deal. It's just a whole lot of drama here in our final race of the regular season. Because why not? Might as well cause as many problems as you can. If you're not going to make it into the playoffs, and if you are, throw as many punches as possible to make sure you make it in. Queen Ametrine going to be the driver getting the lucky dog this time around, and unfortunately she is even more laps down than any of these other lapped cars, and also looks like Pav. Why is Pav on pit lane? Hold on, we're having to do... Why is Pav missing his front bumper? What happened? Was there a second incident separate from what happened to Deeg? Hold on here. No, I'm just confused. Did Drop Table Roster murder someone at the exact same time that Jeremy Albertson did? Sources say yes. Alright, fair enough. And then he keeps going even though everyone's slowing down for the caution. Pav's looking like he's thinking about retaliating, but then decides against it as he realizes he does not have a functional car. So why not? 3 incidences in 1. No big deal. So we get the big double high five from the flag man here as we get the one to go for the pace car. Gonna be 10 to go. 9 to go, actually, when we take the green flag. It all comes down to these final closing chapters. There shouldn't be any more pit stops. All it is a game of survival. Who can make it to the end of this race? Because now we only have 12 cars left on the lead lap. Most of the drivers still here in the field are drivers that are locked into the playoffs, so the drivers that aren't here are going to have to be really aggressive to try and take home this race win. Because Dwayne Day right now is the only one who I can confidently say can make it in on points regardless of how this race goes. Everyone else really needs this win just to be safe, because otherwise it's just going to come down to a little bit of luck. Green flag back up in the air. Maybe for the last time, maybe not. We'll just have to find out here. Moment time getting a solid run down into turns 1 and 2. Madcap, however, just behind it, trying to see if he can't make the move down on Dwayne Day. Madcap, of course, was the pole sitter for this race. He is in a must-win situation. So is the 44 of limited time. So is the 369 of drop table roster just behind. Drop table roster is up plus 19 right now, somehow. I don't know where this driver suddenly found his speed, but sure enough, he is now battling for a podium position in that 369, but a podium position is not going to be good enough for him. He has to take home the race win in order to make it into the playoffs. Side by side once again for the race lead as we see in limited time, and Dwayne Day battling it out once again. Nearly contact just behind as the 369 of drop table roster is looking a little bit like he's trying to throw some mad blocks here. He just completely cut off the 38 and then started swerving to make sure the 38 couldn't get around him. These drivers are really doing their opponents as dirty as physically possible here. Further back, this is in the mid-pack. MF Beatus battling it out with Ash and drop table roster. MF Beatus last place in the Ottercar Championship right now. It would be an absolute miracle if that 818 machine figures out a way to take home this race win. Right now, up plus 12, finding himself inside of the top 5. But it's going to take a lot of effort to get back up to the race lead, particularly with the absolute swarm of cars there is just behind. But sure enough, our race leaders are catching up to the blocker cars, and that can throw everything into complete disarray here. Dwayne Day able to get around without incident. Madcap's going to be able to follow him through. Limited time is stuck behind them. Ame Sakaramori is going to take the advantage through here. It's going to go all the way up to 3rd now. And now Madcap is battling with Dwayne Day for the race lead with 5 laps left to go here at New Hampshire. The unfortunate thing with iRacing automated cautions is that if there is an incident at this point, this race will potentially end under yellow. But as it stands, Madcap is back to the race lead after starting on the pole, and he's pulled it up to a 0.6 second gap over Dwayne Day. Just behind, the battle still 2x2 between Rally and Ash. Both Rally, Ash, and thirds here. All 3 of these drivers in this battle are locked into the Ottercar playoffs right now, so they're just duking it out for a couple of extra points to carry with them into the playoffs. And it looks like this is pretty much one of the closest battles on the speedway. A little bit further back, we're side by side, and drop table rosters into the outside wall. Drop table roster has the front of his car ripped off. He's still keeping it full throttle though. 3 laps left to go. If the caution flag flies now, that will be the end of the race. And drop table rosters bring it to a stop. Caution flag is going to fly. Madcap is going to take home the win here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and he is going to be locking himself in to the Ottercar AI Racing Series playoffs. What an event it has been. He only managed to get up in front of Dwayne Day at the last possible second. Dwayne Day bringing it home back in 2nd. That will not be enough to lock him into the playoffs, but a 2nd place finish is more than fine enough on points to confirm Dwayne Day into the playoffs. So Dwayne Day is for sure going to make it in. The other drivers, I'm not so sure about. But I will go ahead and do the math before we end the stream. Why is Dwayne Day coming down pit lane? Dwayne, you gotta stay out on the track until the race is over. Buddy. Pal. Dwayne. I mean, Dwayne still has a pretty solid amount of points. This might not be catastrophic for him, but I think someone needs to tell him that the race is technically still going. Very strategic by the number 4 machine. That's going to bump him back down to 11th place. I'm a little bit less certain on how things are going to shake up here. So now it's going to be Ame Sakaramori bring it home in 2nd. Rally back in 3rd. Then it's going to be 3rd's Ash August. As the checkered flag will be waving this time by to make it official that Madcap has won here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. We got to make sure to give that blocker car the lucky dog, though, even though the race is over. But it's official now. Madcap takes home his first win in Ottercar as a whole here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and he will be locking himself into the Ottercar Season 2 playoffs. And now it's a matter of waiting a couple of laps for everyone to pull off the track so we can close the game without the results getting deleted. And then before we end the stream, I will do the math for who makes it into the playoffs. Because honestly, I can't tell you right now. The points are so all over the place that I am not 100% sure. But sure enough, we can pull up our race results here. Madcap takes home the win, followed by Ame Sacramore, Rally, Thirds, and Ash, your top 5. Then it's going to be August, MF Beatus, Limited Time, Ash, Jeremy Albertson, your top 10. Then Dwayne Day, the last car on the lead lap after seeing the most brilliant pit strategy we have ever seen out of that 4 machine. And of course, the blockers aren't real, they don't matter, so then it's going to be Drop Table Roster, Valnar, Queen Amatrine, sponsored by Riot Games, Ashley, Pav, D, Bluty Wolf, Zoe, Sarah Something, Med, Chris Cox, Wakes, Kevin 11, Oh You Know, and Sarkin diligently bring it home in last place in that 901 machine. The race is over. We're going to cut to a BRB screen right back, and then we're going to figure out what the deal is with the playoffs right quick. So let's see what the deal is here. And I don't know. I do not know how this is gonna shake out. I'm almost a little bit scared to see what happens. I am waiting with anticipation just as much as y'all are. So let's see here. Doing a little bit of math here on stream. I know math is a little bit scary, a little bit difficult, but we gotta get to the bottom of this one way or another. So let's see here. Still working on it right quick. The anticipation is killing me along with y'all. Gonna have to do a little bit of that. Then we gotta delete the blocker cars as they do not count in the point standings. Let's see here. So blocker, delete, 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 delete. We're doing a whole lot of math here. This is very intense. We're gonna delete those blocker cars, reapply the points, see what happens there. And I need to pull up some spreadsheets because I'm keeping track of the playoffs in a spreadsheet because I don't know how to do the playoffs on this website that we're scoring things with. So it's a whole process. Reapply points, save. Now we go over to the spreadsheet. And so Madcap is in on a win. So let's see here as we go to our standings. All right, Dwayne Day is in on points. Then it is going to be August in on points. Then it is going to be Ashley in on points, despite the drama. Then it's going to be limited time in on points. Then we have Ame Sakuramori in on points. So both of the hybrid development team drivers are in. And then the final position is going to be going to none other than Chris Cox, who is the last driver to make it in on points. So our playoff drivers are going to be Thirds, Ash with an E, Rally, Zoe, Madcap, Dwayne Day, August, Ashley, Limited Time, Ame Sakuramori, and then Chris Cox. Do I have more drivers than I'm supposed to? Hold on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No, we're good. I just don't know how to count. So that is going to be our playoff field for Ottercar season number 2. Everyone else still going to be drivers participating in the races, drivers still going for race wins, but it's only those 12 that will be eligible to potentially win the championship through pretty much an elimination style tournament. So that's how it's going to play out here. What a season it has been for these Ottercar drivers. What a season it is going to be as we go into the playoffs next week at the Airport Hampshire Grand Prix in Silverstone. And also something fun to note, with both of Hybrid Development Team's drivers in making their way into the playoffs, they are also now our new leader in the team standings. So that said, I will post all of the results and stuff in the Discord server for now, though. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see y'all next week for our first round of the playoffs at Silverstone. Have a good evening, everyone.